Welcome to Dungeon Master. Sorry, this is the Enchantress. I'm playing Tomb Raider in a Resident Evil game. I'm the lead character. Welcome to Dungeon Master. I knew you were all craving the speech from Dungeon himself. This is the Enchantress in a dungeon all on her own. She's going the distance. And she's all alone in a time of need, and she's scrunching back the cat, and she's jumping o'er the hat, and she wishes much more than the cat in the hat would pop out, because rhyming during gaming just really doesn't work. It cramps my style every time I get out the poetry book. I start to fail at the history of video games, which Tomb Raider and Resident Evil will go down in history as the most shadowy contortion of a distortion that was ever combined and hybridized into one game like this. That the YouTube link for is here. There's a Prince of Persia gameplay I need to see on this list. Remember, when the Resident Evil Tomb Raider grows to wane, we are going to catch some of this Prince of Persia, the Two Thrones. Does that mean Prince of Persia has two bathrooms and he sits on a throne? His porcelain throne? No, I'm kidding. But really, who could joke around a girl like this? It's humorless to joke around a girl like this because she doesn't want a joker. Well, a joker she might want, but you being a jokester, give it up, man. Women hate when men try to make them laugh and fail. This whole game was created just for men to laugh at each other's lame jokes, I have to admit, but really, that women have been controlling this whole distance because we thought the Enchantress was dead levels ago, and we thought we had come to an end of Dungeon Master. But what's strange is the Hitchcock ending only played on Facebook and wasn't even the end of the series. And now here we see the Enchantress in full form as Lara Croft, but she's investigating a Resident Evil, if you know what I mean. And if you notice, we got rid of the iconography of the Bible from our minds because we didn't like being taught by Dungeon Master things that aren't real. Like Lara Croft in Resident Evil, that's a cool combo. Of course, that's real. Well, here's how to get to it. Tomb Raider level editor Resident Evil retold demo. 100% PC full game walkthrough. No commentary. Well, there's about to be commentary about where you blast your guns and who you're blasting them at. And I think one of the reasons I never offer the map entirely is because we can see it unfold with the grand dungeon scheme of it all. This could be a big boiling peace block to the whole journey, and I can't wait to see if it's because we have desounded the theater that it is showing into no background sound yet. Oh no, I have some ideas for background noise. This Dungeon Master 97 requires more. You follow her through her adventure. The Enchantress will lead us through the dungeon. And this is quite a dungeon just built for Lara Croft and the Resident Evil gang that she's taking on both jobs at once. You've got to admire that in her for sure. That she's probably highly occupied by many other things like gymnastics and climbing tall buildings and shooting at evil things like zombies. And if Lara Croft's fighting zombies, I'm in. Who's in? It's the Enchantress as Lara Croft as fighting zombies, as no one had ever known. And I don't really mind the Tomb Raider being a female and the Metroid chick being a female, even though she had to blow up some baloney brains of Mother Brain. And I don't really mind that the Resident Evil chick is always on her mind. And Lara Croft turns out to be a Resident Evil chick, because not only did she shoot that guy 100 times, it takes 102 to kill him, so she shot him 2 more times. I mean, that's just, you gotta shoot these guys. Like, they shoot you like 4 times, you're dead, but you shoot them like 100 times, they explode, I swear. I'm not trying to be graphic, like violently or anything. We don't promote violence at Dungeon Master. I mean, there's squidgy demons chasing us around the room, yes, but that doesn't mean we just invite all the creepy sneechies into our room and let them follow us around. Ew, they'll gobbledygook us with their non-showering capability or something. Oh, man. Well, if you must know, we've looked at an old file of notebooks that we found recently and excavated from it. Not a single word can be read from the notes that came out of the file and into the snow and back down around, and off she goes. Oh, I'm rhyming again, and that doesn't go well with Resident Evil. I don't care if you people, I don't listen to the radio just for the sound, because everybody knows I'm always around, and if you cut it with me, I'll make a record deal, and that is how I really want you to feel. No, I'm not Prefer. No, that wasn't Dungeon Master. It was the damn cleric. He always gets full of hip-hop ideas when he gets around the Enchantress. I don't know, just to impress the chick. Come on, now, that wasn't even that good. Remember, the lullaby doth quaff the rage in us all, as exertion is in our throne, of the throne of the princes. But I think we need to go through this part. Just follow it as far as we can, because Lara Croft in a Resident Evil position on some kind of made-up version of both games is really a PC wonder, and I am keeping it on this track of film because it is just like looped back there anyway, and I think it's not a character that's the computer playing. And remember, the computer knows all the moves to win, but this seems like there are second guessings of the moves. Like not even like a program could solve it. They had to trial and error some of it. And as they were getting through the trial and error of some of it, they relinquished unto the kingdom its new wave of intelligence. And like, can I ask a question? Why is Shrek even in Cloned Mutants? I mean, I saw this book that Troma put out, and Shrek is in it like 3 times. I mean, I know Shrek tried to get a job at Troma when he was starting out, but it was called My Bloody Shrek-a-Day. And something about the word Shrek sounded too original for them to realize that. I'm not going to say that some producers thought Shrek was Jewish, but like then there's Macho Man Randy Savage. They didn't know if he was Jewish either. And really, you didn't just announce it back then. You kind of had it as your calling card and people accepted you for it. Nowadays, it's like, you mean we left him alive? And then that gets real anti-Semitic because all my good friends back in Hollywood are Jewish, and God bless them. And they're the only ones allowed to believe in God, the Jews. And I only bring that up because Jews are our friends. It's not controversial to have a Jewish friend, is it? Because my Jewish friend will feel really sad if you're mean to him and you tell him he sucks just because he's Jewish. And I know we don't confront social issues here on Video Game Central, where these games come piping in from all over the electronic mass of whodunit, and everybody makes their own game and throws it all in the middle, and then somehow Dungeon Master says he's leading a dungeon through it, but hasn't even seen the dungeon while he's dungeon mastering it, kind of like an AD&D. But if this site goes further than Gygax, which I heard it was getting up there to 112, no, 97, Dungeon Master. How's it all gonna end? Nice rear end. But how's it all gonna end? And I shouldn't be hitting on video games. I know they come from another dimension and don't deserve to be told they're beautiful, even though, of course, we know that Tomb Raider and the Resident Evil mixture is just what we wanted with an indica and sativa hybrid. Being that the Tomb Raider is the indica and Resident Evil is the sativa, and it's blueberry weed. Dungeon Master just came in from a quick run to the parking lot, where we are allowed to chief it up as long as nobody sees us hiding under the wheel of a car. And so we have left this level up to none other than Lara Croft, who, taking on the persona of the Resident Evil chick, you know, it'd be like crossing Charlie's Throne with Angelina Jolie. Like both would have to play each other as one, and then they'd take shots of it, but they wouldn't use the wretched AI. They'd let them fuse themselves together and just be one person. But Siamese twins at this point, I think, is hard to create unless it's born that way, but I'm sure we could clone some skin or something. I don't know, we'll figure it out. I know these guys that used to have like human skin in their CD records, and I wrote like songs for their band. It's really weird. Yeah, and like that stuff goes moldy, dude. You can't do that. I think they just did that to haze me. They probably just scalped some ninja in the hydrant quarters, and everybody was freaking out that these guys were real pesky. So I did then and said, I accept you no matter who you are, people. I don't remember who I'm talking about, because Dungeon Master just went into the pit of eternity. And in the pit of eternity, we have to run from this dungeon. So it reminds me to find my frickin' moped footage and get it on Dungeon Master for the escape from the dungeon. Part 2. Because we're going to have to drive out of here so far that it'll be like Gran Turismo 5 playing repeatedly on the TV. And if I put in Gran Turismo 5 right now, I'd go down in legend as skipping a Dungeon Master to where we need to get away. We still need to solve this dungeon, sir. It's trapped in the future, low on gas and surrounded by evil. Oh, that's at least the reanimated bit that's in all these Resident Evil homages to horror films where Lara Croft is an all-original Zelda-like taller chick than Zelda, though, because Zelda was a dwarf. Wait, the princess was Zelda. See what a gamer I am. I wrote the history of video games, and the chick is Zelda. Boy, this is one you should get out your beds for, because Zelda's not really a dwarf. She's an elven princess in some of them. But he's a small elf, Link. He's always half her size. Which really, it's not always size that matters, but I don't really take that as like the reason that they kind of made that one Zelda look like they were doing it with the princess, and I was like, the Link was. And I was like, that's not my favorite Zelda, because they don't have to show me how to procreate with their cartoons. I mean, some people get a kick out of that, and like some of it in Grand Theft Auto, I can kind of understand why there's people that shoot from the hip, and that's what we're trying to do. And I'm following her, the Enchantress, and she said she'd get us out of this dungeon, even if she had to crawl across the roof and jump from platform to platform and shoot whoever is shooting at her and things. And now we have this like dark cage in here where she's in this tunnel, and there she comes flinging forward her grace and technology of this Wampus gun, and she shot down the Wampus. And zombies are everywhere, and we have to admit, this is a good start to Dungeon Master 97. Drift with me as you will through this casual advancement of interrogative detail that fashions forward in your arms the simple, twisted gimmick of that leadership that was non-entity, that was supposed to be my latest intercept, that was to be the code for my bigger operation that I should have led into Freaks mode, which is not the same as Freaked mode, which is like a comedy, and Freaks is more like a drama, whereas they were once called Freaks. The ones calling them that ended up being them that craved only money vampirically. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was a vampire and I craved money instead of blood, I'd have to suck all the blood and then put it in a container and sell the blood. See, I sell blood. I don't get it. I get some blood transfusions at the blood doctor, but typically I take my blood and sell it to people who sell it to hospitals. So Dracula's actually doing a human service where he's biting everyone on the neck, sucking their blood all up, making sure the hose gets it into his bucket, his siphon bucket. And he siphons all the blood and sells like these giant 5-gallon barrels of blood to the blood donor, and the blood donor thanks him because he's really likes the typo negative. Oh, that was scary, man. Why'd you do that? That's really not that cool when you quote like scary horror films that are talking about bands that are really scary. Like, that guy's a low voice. I'm offended by how low that guy's voice goes. It goes so low, he sounds like a monster or a demon. Below it all, it's devil rock, man. Well, there's a bit of devil rock in every episode of Dungeon Master, so you must journey with me to Stereo Land while she pushes that statue needlessly around. And by the way, we're leaving that episode going, and there's coming up on this same episode. Whoa, what was that? That was almost the popularity fare of it all that I listened to mostly. On my rewindable machine, it is a CD player that will play non-linearly, but goes in an order of it comes. Let's hear it. Is it what I think? Oh, yeah. Let's see the case for that. No, that's Avi. Hold on. Quesaruni treat. Quesarunio. Sarunio. We're going through the lot. We're picking lots of time, and we're living in my cot. In my cot, it says. You didn't see anything but a trashed hurricane in here. And no, I cannot grant you what you want most. And that is a trip back through Audioland tomorrow to see where another case may be. But as we all know, it's all been basically put away, and I think there's one here, the invention of the movies, but we can no longer give that to Thomas Edison. Well, it sounds like Stereoland's got Magic Flute, and Magic Flute being lost cover of interest, unless this seed. This is just it. I mean, you can't keep track of what, Mr. Can you tell me? Where a man, there's all of a sudden more music here than ever, and nowhere is the lost. This is lame, Dungeon Master. Why do we gotta look for you looking for the Magic Flute when the Magic Flute's already on? Well, because the case has been bedraggled by me. Of course, that it was uncareful tidying of the dungeon that I live in. But that's because it's in the submarine shell where we all go on. Sorry about that. I had to see if I could find my Magic Flute CD. What better way to spend Dungeon Master than me looking for my Magic Flute CD? It's obviously on right now, so why do I bother and say I'm looking for the Magic Flute CD when the Magic Flute just started and it's disc 2, and I don't even remember if it's disc 2 or disc 1, but somehow I got the Magic Flute roasting in there, and we're not stopping it now. We're like, we could have done Debussy again and thought Lohengrin by the Wagnermeister with the giant Swan Lake, you know. Swan Lake's kind of one of those Tchaikovsky ballets. I'm not saying it's wrong to play classical music to video games, because look how much more interesting this is when I listen to it. It matches the image, it's synchronized. We're synchronizing it as it goes. That was my technician. There's always one game technician to explain the new mode of concentration through Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which is what we're the comedy version of, and Gygax specifically said he could only pull off 112 comedy ones, so we may be long and strong and down to get the friction on, but we are not taking any resident with a higher Dungeon Master level than Gygax had reached for the stars. But this is coming awfully close. I mean, here we are, 97. That means there's 16 roughly episodes of Dungeon Master left. And what have we done? What have we learned? What has Dungy actually built before us? Or is he working on a grand dungeon that connects them all? Or do they all already connect? And the sponsor guys, IGN, that came in on the Pokemon set, and I proved, Dungeon Master proved he could beat Pokemon in like 30 minutes, and it was the quickest game ever. And IGN's like, we're in. And then things like Animaniacs making an episode. That's, DreamWorks. And then like all the Star Wars episodes, like especially the Knights of the Old Republic episode. And I don't know, Gringo, where the list of which Dungeon Master is, and Ninja Gaiden's on so many flip sides that I can't wait to see Prince of Persia on the flip side. 2 Thrones. These are the 2. It's like Game of Thrones, Prince of Persia. Oh, I'm getting excited. I mean, I'm not dissing on Tomb Raider, Lara Croft, Resident Evil hybrid. That's what I was looking for originally. We still got some time. Let's watch. Out the window and see if she does anything that we need to Dungeon Master. Should I go through that door? Yes. Should I jump over here? Yes. Wait a minute. We're disabling the AI in these games. Done. All right, what's going to happen now? Now that they're manually controlled. And they're stopped at the bridge. Didn't I tell you to disable AI from the start? How many different versions are there of Dungeon Master 97 if this is the only one? And haven't we seen this scene before? And why does the timeline defy me in this rebel rouse of a picture? And the timeline goes away, and then the timeline's back, and I'm sitting here going, 4 more minutes. 4 more minutes to tape B. See, I put that little construction in there for the cleric to read aloud because we're about to run out of space on tape 1. But that's only, because it's about these reels are about a film length reel. That's like 20 minutes a reel. Yeah, we're on reel 2 now, but he jumped to reel 2, so we're actually on reel 3 just to make sure it run. The second reel ran only 15 minutes, and we don't want them too long, because if they get to 20 minutes, then they tear off to the end, and we miss a part just like we did earlier. And she's really been crawling around. She's like crawling from dungeon to dungeon. This is a big dungeon. It's like the Paradise Faust dungeon that's coming true. Oh my gosh, this is so introspective towards the nature of the gaming media that we almost search within ourselves to see how we can divide games up into 2 chicks and then be 2 chicks in 1. And I like the 2 chicks in 1 theory. I think there may be some females I know who are 5 chicks in 1. And I'm cool with that, because if they got a hat for every responsibility, especially saying hi, then I don't mind who's pissed off about a bag full of lies that circulate out there, like a squadron of chivies that were once added to the Rastafarian level of distraction that we needed to just chill for a minute, hang out on. Oh, it's getting really climactic in the music, and it's getting really towards the end of this time code. Oh yes, like there's really 2 minutes all of a sudden left, and it was only 24 minutes. Well, 2 Thrones needs booted up. Level 100 ultimate weapon. We don't want to see that boss battle. Tomb Raider, Resident Evil. There, we're going to Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia's got a lot of footage here, so away we go. Thank you, Tomb Raider, Resident Evil. We may have more for you. Oh, like when we find the track that they were trying to feed us and now it's gone. Isn't YouTube full of perplexities? Okay, so part 2 of this Dungeon Master just began. Insert tape B. Wow, I didn't know 6 minutes went by and I still haven't found the magic flute cover, but have covered this episode in disdain with search. The endless search for my classical music covers, and what if I had to open the other copy? Then would I not be stung by the banter of correlation that feeds into journeys more questionable than some? That get us back our remorse for faith being entire, that each day we take our daily bread and learn from that daily requirement of being as... Now this is Prince of Persia 2 Thrones, and I don't know where I was going with that. I forgot what I was saying, so check this out. She's going to jump from ledge to ledge, and now we're thinking, is this Tomb Raider Prince of Egypt? No, it's not Tomb Raider or Resident Evil. It's frickin' Prince of frickin' Egypt. And what gaming system was that? It's the full game 100%. I think it was on multiple consoles. And I'm talking to myself because my crew has left me alone to run on these sidewalls. And only Prince of Persia in the Sands of Time can he run on sidewalls and open up the canister of time freeze and make everybody freeze while he zaps them all with a sword and then continues across the sideways run. And if we could master the sideways run, we wouldn't have to cut this so short and just be like in the middle of a level that seems like it's long, and we can go into it as long as we can play. I'm telling you, there's like footage there for like some crazy long dungeon master footage, but I can't do it because if I do it now, then that's another movie that you'll have to sit through and watch that could have been 2 dungeon masters. But wait, we're getting near the end of the series and about to reach our Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master Guide and Hitchhiker's Guide to Dungeon Master. We find that 112 must end it all, even if arbitrary, even if Gygax renounced the number. But somehow I think to have these dungeons put in the big dungeon book and be a grand dungeon, and somehow to go down in the books as still Wizards of the Coast, which we are, very much. We fought the witch with the holy hand grenade of Dungeon Master, one of the other series we did called Dungeon Master, but this is the supreme version of Dungeon Master, where everything is learning. And Oxford Internet Institute once described this kind of game playing as free-for-all, that we free-for-all it through the dungeon, and that's why one of us is doing good, because there's 100 players, and one of them knows how to get through the game, and that's how they test the game for bugs. And they run on the same wall that they get on that runs them. And I'm really enjoying this new case of footage we found after the Tomb Raider video footage got kind of, well, upsettingly throngful of situations. And okay, you're right. There's one that we have to see. I know it's going to be longer than you think, but we're thinking about stretching this one out. The Prince of Persia was put Dungeon Master into a spell somehow, and this one doesn't make sense because it's all in a freeze frame. But I think if we skip ahead to here, and then skip ahead to here, we're getting some kind of a screen. It's a Dungeons and Dragons screen. You can build your own adventure and go through these dungeons in the order they used to go. And you can build your own adventure on these, and these are templates for what the Dungeon Master character sheets can build into in action sheets. But this action sheet has come alive and made us actually engage in Dungeon Master 97. Insert tape C. Welcome back to Dungeon Master, where we have found some kind of oracle into the muse of the canon of the oeuvre of everything that is Dungeon Master. And it's a Dungeons and Dragons make your own Dungeon Master game. Only we're doing the funny version. What's so funny about that? I told you it's humorless. I told you if the 4 of you all I've seen this game, it was on computer. What does it say? Sega Genesis. Ooh, now I'm afraid. A Dungeons and Dragons on Sega Genesis. How far we have not come from this, the ultimate adventure. In all the grooviest to you, Dungeon Master, you are staying with us on course through we can see through the Dungeon Master battles and see through the level ups that have gotten us to level 78 almost. Constitution +5, level up. Hit points times 0.2%, 0.25%. Up. dexterity, constitution, abilities, spells, they all went up a notch. You're on level 79, and we got 16, 17 more dungeons, 16, 15 more dungeons technically, and we finally found the game we were supposed to play. I mean, we were all through these dungeons, in and out, everywhere. We were looking for Elder Scroll everything. We were looking for Elder Scrolls. We found Elder Scrolls. We were looking for Dungeons and Dragons game like Baldur's Gate. Couldn't find Baldur's Gate. It's probably out there now. But now, what did we find? But the Atari Dungeons and Dragons, which is way earlier in this whole game when it turned into video game history, the Atari version. There's a version of that plays all the way through, but there's a version of that takes snippy, snappy, bridgy brappies from it, and it's about 30 minutes long. And well, I figured now that we got the right Dungeon Master here. Where did you find this game? I mean, this is us. It's our game. We're in it right now. This is us playing. Can you see that? It's me and the gang. We're all dressed in dragon like chicks, but that's the usual for the 80s, 90s version of Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeon Master has finally found his calling in this green field along a mountain ridge. And I do mean they're going up the mountain if they need to find what's in their way, or they'll attack a moving tree. It looks like a plant that could rip you in half as a plant. I never understood how people could be vegetarians when the Venus flytrap eats meat. Of course, we don't really know if flies are made of meat. They might just be made of Abraxas lineage, remolded as within our alien warlord overhold. The things that make the magic flute good have also really bewildered me in the sense that I can't find the CD, and I think one of my girlfriends took it, but that's okay because she won't be coming around because someone chased her down and it was her ex, and she said he was a lot more interesting than anyone that would sit around playing Dungeon Master. Can you believe the burn? So I said, you know what? I'm just going to sit around and play Dungeon Master, and I hope that burned her right back, but I don't burn anybody, no. Dudes, you like just not hurt nobody, the Witchcraft Creed, you know? That was what it eventually became. So let's just chill and watch what this game was meant to be from the start. From the start of it all, it was meant to be this. And we're in a really big habit to just hurry through these dungeons, and here we found at last the perfect dungeon to ogle at. But I must say that we've been outdoors walking in green pastures across monumental plains of dungeons, but now we're going in. We're sitting here on pause for some reason, and now I have to pause it left and right because we're not getting a keyboard signal. Dungeon Master, can you tell me why isn't Dungeon Master moving? I think something's wrong with the keyboard. I think one of your circus performer roommates might have dunked it, but here's Dungeons and Dragons, and they're kind of stuck on the edge of a town, and I think maybe we should fast forward it. So, technical difficulties. Oh, we're back. Sorry, we had to get past that stuck moment. I don't know why. We must find the link to the Magic Keyboard in hand. It has been too long since a version of this worked and a version didn't. There we go. Now we have the keyboard back in operation, and I hope the keyboard wasn't asleep because it's the deck we ride by. What'd you? So I'll stop it. Go. Alright, we're playing Stop and Go. It's a new game I invented that's part of the... So you say go and I say stop. You just said go. Stop. Go. We're on the menu. We can really find out what happened here. Stop. Go. Who's coming through that door down there? Is it some kind of precipice in the game. We must go on. It is not without shame that we unpause it again. Okay, ready? Start. Go, 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 go. Stop. Start. Yeah, I'll look to stop and start. You guys all did good, but you already got your level up and you're on 79, so deal with it. Hey, if you only graduate with an 85, you may have to go play 12 dungeons again and get some more, and then I'll have to have level ups. So that means don't aim for the 40s, because there's 3 level ups there, and that's the most of any 10 numbers in a row. No, I'm kidding. Hopefully you've all been taking notes on my notes, which I'm reading straight out of a notebook. It says Player 1, Cleric, he's studying to be a priest, and then studying to be a satanic priest, and then he's going to go on to be a wizard and a sorcerer and all these things. And chairman of the board of the Amsterdam Dungeon. And then there's me, who's going to go on being Dungeon Master, that will play it overseas and be conqueror of it to gain more ability in the Dungeon Masters Guild, of which I have slipped down to position 3 because 2 new Dungeon Masters have come and blown me out of the water. They have found the Dungeons and Dragons games before I have, and I think I've been preaching it this whole game, and this could even be the great introduction to the beginning of the end, where 15 Dungeon Masters line up, and they're all as hot as this one. This one's taken us through Lara Croft, through Esmeralda. Who else was on that character sheet? Well, there's the cleric, the wizard. We never talk to the wizard because he just floats around and he's mute anyway. He doesn't talk. He talked in the beginning, but he got blown up by Red Dead Redemption early on, and that game never came back online like I wanted it to. And I would show Red Dead Redemption some kind of again, but it's been on a few times, and I feel that Dungeon Master has finally found its home with Dungeons and Dragons. And if it was advanced, I'd say this is a pretty advanced mode. And, you know, I've also got the Enchantress somehow employed, but she wanders off and does her own thing, and she's encapsulating my doom in these picture IDs they give you of the venomous thing. But if I could scurry across that timeline and see where we've gone below where we go. So you're not gonna like this, but we have about 10, 20 minutes left. Do you want to go the full 20? Because if you go the full 20, I'll give you $20, Dungeon Master. I'll give you $20 if you go an hour on this thing that you said you're only going to do half an hour or so. That we have a feature Dungeon Master, so your features are real scary cartoons, because they're like cartoons of the video game making it through the video game themselves. And only you could have found all this, Dungeon Master, only you. And it's all this YouTube to thank, and YouTube is God. And Wizards of the Coast are thanking YouTube, and everybody's thankful. And I'm so thankful that Dungeon Master exists as a game, because I wouldn't want to follow any other leader than my hero, Dungeon Master. And he makes me pray only to him, the things I want to say only to him. And when I die each day, I want his heavenly name to say, Gygax says 112 limit, cannot pass. Are you sure this be one of the full hours? Of course I'm not sure, you frickin' computer. How did you even find us in this maze of it all? Wasn't this supposed to be the end of the game? Now I got 15 frickin' games to go, and they're all connected to the Grand Dungeon, and I'm not complaining. That we'll have the big tamales then to show that around to everyone in the starter kit and all that with IGN and everything with Pokemon. I agree, but come on now. We've played some Pokemon Snap with very little results. And very little results means we went on a safari and could barely see anything in our path. And if you think that's funny, then you just haven't been with Dungeon Master. We went through it all to find out where Dungeons and Dragons was buried. And because the calculator sword and the mirror lamp are in the same area before, you see, there I am with Rock You Like a Hurricane. He's going this way. And he's going up here to get a bar of gold, a lump of gold, get it. It's a touch point screen, and I have to lead the way. Lead the way. If I touch him, he becomes a game I can play. See, kind of maneuver that up there. They're responding to the touch screen. Let's go, guys. You got the treasure. Mirror lamps images have touch screens? Or are we using a Wii this whole time? Nope. It's the Sega Genesis. It's Dungeons and Dragons, Warriors of the Eternal Sun. That was what Dungeon Master was originally called. Warriors of the Eternal Sun. I can't believe we've found our own game. Hey everybody, we found our own game. What do you say we listen to some Magic Flute for a minute? And yeah, we have to be talking on the whole track because we're guiding them with dungeon mastering. We have to show them out of this green foliage back into the dungeon, In this little box, we see the enemies approaching in the dungeon. But that we just ran into somebody who gave us all kinds of weapons and shiznit. We're back in the dungeon fighting him because we're all equipped now. And there's McCarrick and the warrior. The warrior, I forgot to mention, he's on my team. Everybody's on the same level because Dungeon Master is the real character that we're playing in this. Dungeon Master Player 1. I mean, he's the character that we're all playing. We're all being Dungeon Master, and he's the real Dungeon Master. Would the real Dungeon Master please stand up? Audio Land. I'm looking for that freaking Mozart cover again. I'm gonna find it because if I don't, then Mozart himself will berald me into tomorrow, and Mozart's always looking for someone to kick around and put up a fence with, and wait a minute. Tunes unfollowed, tunes undone. Can Parsifal be the only one? Now if we find one cover, Parsifal by Wagner, that means we're high on the trace of the music collection. Which one time we went to CD land and got it all, but now we are finding one thing true about it all. That the Dungeon Master CDs have been somewhat, well, I hate to say it, but compromised in motion that somewhere tells me that we have to see what Dungeon Master's doing, but we can't yet. All because the magic flute went missing. Now, it's whoever's fault the magic flute is missing that we can't find the magic flute. It's one of the scariest moments of our career because we're using the music from the album, but the album has unfortunately taken its place somewhere among the wreckage. And we must remind ourselves to find the Mozart record there it is. Someone else has taken the gift. This is good news, sir. Someone else took the gift, and they thought it was the version that had been opened. But you've got the backup copy and the CD in there. Now, if you could find your other copy identical to this of Magic Flute, it'd all be tidy, but please, can we get back to this weird Dungeons & Dragons game that's about AD&D and all the things we've been studying? I can't take away from Stereo Band anymore. It's a dancing Wonderland. It looks like a real dancer. Are you doing things like a happy person in that dance mode? He dances to Magic Flute. He finds an unopened Magic Flute. This other copy may have fallen to the wayside, but there will be another snake oil salesman to trade me for the big tax of snake oil, which will pay for my third copy of Magic Flute and so on. For when moments like these come along that you get to prove that you own it. Oh, commercial! We hadn't had one of those in a while. And here's all these codes, and here's this novel about Alaska, biographical information I shouldn't give away. And it's a good one, let me tell you. It doesn't even stray from the actual reality. Where are we? What are we doing in this infomercial? How did we get to the infomercial? Who kicked us out of Dungeons and Dragons, and where is this drag race coming from? And why is my mouse? Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. I don't see why the curveball of the... I don't see why that died like it did, but I'm glad it did. Someone was on the computer while we were in audio land. Unfortunately, we can show these clips. I don't know how heinous they look to you. Hang on. I'm seeing some kind of a correlation here. What will we do? Oh, I know. This may take us back to Atari, but I forgot what we were going to call it. Rings of Eternal Fire? Oh. Technical difficulties. Dungeon Master rebooting. Dungeon Master rebooting. Ever since we looked for the magic flute, the computer's been on the wreck. Okay, it's the mirror lamp actually. Hang on. Where are we? This is interesting. This is like an older school version that we're gonna just have to... Dungeon Master! We found the game Dungeon Master! This whole time we've been looking for the frickin' game Dungeon Master, and we found Dungeon Master. Is this really Dungeon Master? I'm filming this while the logo's still on it. Is this going forward? Oh, Dungeon Master is a real game, besides the real life game of it that the live action role-playing game plays with swords and poisons and things to harm each other if they're fighting. And they base off in real dungeons. This Dungeon Master, however, is the game that this one is based on, the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master Guide and Hitchhiker's Guide to Dungeon Master Guide have come to give you the comedy version, but this is still the exact what I was trying to tell you is Dungeon Master all about. This is exact what is Dungeon Master all about. Was scurrying through the dungeon, was so happy to have found home. Home at last. It was worth all those technical difficulties. You know, had we not found the Magic Flute CD, we would have completely corroded over and had some kind of a decadent memory of the age of when we had only things to occur and had to occur only things and had to bring about the light beyond the shadow of the course of the switching of the thrill, kill, engage. So Dungeon Master, I timed you, man, and this is good timing because you can say to yourself, we found Dungeon Master, so we should stay here while it's on the mirror lamp, or forget what we were looking for later and come to and lose another Magic Flute CD, which if you lose this other copy, I swear I'm never letting you buy quality classical opera like this ever again, because really it was modern for its time, and Mozart was kind of a neoclassicist, so really he was building modern things with classical paradigms, all right? Well, if this be Dungeon 97, what be your word that we still trail through the dungeon for a while, because we're not done yet. And we do have some bewilderingly long dungeon masters, but can you see how far we've come? And I want to compare another version of Dungeon Master that I had never really overseen, but now if we insert tape D. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Oh, I knew it would be on this system. It's probably the game we played earlier. Yes, it's Dungeon Master Nexus Part 2, complete clearing of it. This is not an easy game map to track down, but I think we'll add to the Dungeon Master series somehow by somehow getting into the Dungeon Master game that we were invited to, while still enjoying these introductions that come towards the end. Now that the introduction to this game is coming towards the end isn't really true, because 10 minutes, anything can happen in 10 minutes, especially on a game. This whole intro might be 10 minutes long. Hell, it says this dungeon is 2 hours long, and my dungeon's only 1. Where do I get off saying I have a 2-hour dungeon? And everybody knows episode 111 is the only 2-hour episode. And it's like the movie Lost Horizon without the sound. Come on now, which we couldn't get the credits for, so we had to restart every Dungeon Master when we got to 112. No, I'm kidding. Don't take any ideas. YouTube, please spare us. Keep us on forever under Wizards of the Coast Vein. Vein. Sorry, I pray to Dungeons and Dragons is all. They're so satanic that I get into it. Sure, it's amazing. I'm going up the dungeon chamber that was just created by the web and the nexus that interloped with everything I was clearing about, that was ultimately in my shame and ultimately in my victory and ultimately wherewithal, is what poisoned the absolute great hallway of destruction that would lead me into the feeling that I just gotta get real about this dungeon. I can't just say it's all these parts and components of like clips and things I needed to see, and I was really amazed mostly by the early Dungeon Master games. And this one does take on a Dungeon Master realm, but it's got such a long introduction that you have to pay attention to this part to even get across the game. But that looked like a hand announced people down in the dungeon. Dungeon Master fights a giant and becomes him. No, we didn't fight him. He is the giant robot ghost. Giant robot ghost, may I have your full ticket to roast? Dungeon Master, you're going to be a little disappointing, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I'm clocking it as though you got 8 minutes on the one hand to just kind of let it go with this Dungeon Master. We could do that. Or we could forget to look at our other Magic Flute CD in case the other one gets linky keys and starts blinking everywhere and isn't totally Amazon supported. And I want to know where my other Magic Flute CD is, man. It's really distracting me from Dungeon Master. Can we end Dungeon Master? No, we just got to another Dungeon Master. And I want to see what they do, because they led me on to believe with the cartoon. Trust me, I'll get to your Magic Flute eventually. And that's what's on, is your copy, because the other copy hasn't been opened now. If we've only lost one disc, then we'll deal with it as though we can find it later, which we did set it somewhere and it probably disappeared off the earth. Or it fell backwards somewhere, or Slippery Palm that lives next door with the owners totally slippy palmed each other and then slip palmed the Magic Flute, which is up to them. They're not like the Thieves Guild. The Thieves Guild has already taken what it can out of everything that it can get and then stolen it and then ran off and funded a Kenneth Anger movie, and that's all I can tell you about this Eternal Flame model in between. Dungeon Master, no, I'm serious. I know you're along to this new version of Dungeon Master. It looks like Alice in Wonderland catching on fire to fight the Jabberwocky, and then she disappears like a shrieking ghost. You know, Dungeon Master, hang on, play this for a minute. Never mind, let's go. Let's stretch a little bit. Stretch, everybody. I was thinking about quitting earlier. I was getting all travel sick, and then I started seeing you go through this Dungeon Master, and it's called Dungeon Master. Are you happy you found your game? I am so elated. I didn't think I'd find Dungeon Master in Dungeon Master. Did anyone at home know that Dungeon Master would find Dungeon Master on the internet and play Dungeon Master on Dungeon Master? This is insane. It's like meeting an old friend from a long time ago, and he wants to kill monsters and find treasure and simulate a game through his time, and the game teaches about evil and more evil, and you can become more evil to kill the evil things that are evil. It's a beautiful concept when you drink a potion and What do they drink in Amsterdam when they're playing real Dungeon Master? And they get a potion. Well, a potion, of course. They have potions. There are potions you can find. Somehow in America all we get is flower potions, and witches make love potions and other kinds of portents and souvenirs, novelties, party tricks, souvenirs, novelties, party tricks, just to assimilate that we're a comedy. This is getting a little edgy. Can I ask you something, oh boy? Yeah, what is it, Dungeon Master? You really think we can make it any farther in this dungeon? We've actually come to the edge of oblivion with this whole magic flute thing in this rock and roll setting that we're putting magic flute in with these Dungeon Master brand Dungeon Master games. Old Dungeon Master, it's like this. If we get paid by the hour, and I think we get, $4.25 an hour, it's half of minimum wage. And that's just to get our pictures taken so we can be in AI movies as the main character of our own AI movies we make. And so I don't make AI, I'm disabling AI. Thank you for turning that off. The screen heralded it just the minute I said it. That's his turn off AI immediately. Now, why it's frozen, I don't know. It froze up on me. That it's written in Japanese, so be it. We're going further into the dungeon, don't we go? But now we gotta go and stop the show. There's a minute 30 left, and I don't know. Insert tape E. Well, friends, it's been an excellent dungeon. The rhymes kind of killed it. You know, maybe they're right. Maybe you can't rhyme anymore. Maybe it was reserved for poetry and then no longer. And, of course, if I rhyme during sex, I'll get slapped as silly. But Dungeon Master doesn't discuss such affairs with his own game that is him mind-boggling, and that's exactly what I look like, too. It's like the chick with horns and everything and that. We're going through the dungeon when we come. We're going through the dungeon when we come. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. We have just a few more, circumstances. I'd like to say a few things, Dungeon Master, since you can't think of a way to end this. I'm just going to say, A, we took this dungeon ride through Lara Croft Resident Evil version hybrid. And then we pretty much started finding Dungeon Master games. I mean, we did have Prince of Persia, Two Thrones. Which I don't know if it's part 2, Two Thrones. It'd be weird if it says part 2, Two Thrones. All spelled differently, that'd be crazy. Yeah, well, they couldn't be all different spellings. The number is spelled 2WO. TWO. And that's because the W is something. WHO. TOWHO. Get it right, Dungeon Master. Oh, do I have to... Hi, I'm the scribe, and I'm merging back into the cleric so we can be two dudes in one, so we can have that Lara Croft Resident Evil chicken one. That's not what I intended. I intended for them to be safe, that they wouldn't go rigiding against you and start a flame against themselves. That the only way that I'm going to let this happen is if it has nothing to do with me, and I don't mean in actuality, but that it's all kept under wraps because I didn't have anything to do with that. And if they think it's because of me that it happened, well then, everybody will find out that one day, even I have feelings, and I want Dungeon Master to succeed in the fullest. That's why I dedicate this ending to the Wizards of the Coast and YouTube Wizards of the Coast, who are always there when you need them, and always tough in Dungeon Master play. And who here, raise your hand if you thought that was a hard dungeon. Yeah, me too. I thought much more of that and be in breach of making only feature film versions of Dungeon Master, which I don't necessarily dastardly exalt against, but I mean, after a while, we've got to get it down so perfect that these are the 112 levels in Lockdown that we play, and we'll set up the whole board game, and we still have the IGN starter kit, and you get to level 20, and you're building levels, and now we're on level 79, and I'm so excited to say the Dungeon Master 97. Looks like a real success, and I hope that we all can live with our actions of being involved with Dungeon Master, in Dungeon Master, by Dungeon Master, for Dungeon Master, and everybody's Dungeon Master in the game except Dungeon Master who's more of a Dungeon Master.